Okay, wow. Greetings, Retro Zoltan here, introducing the R36S, a budget handheld from, who makes this? I'm so used to going on and on about Powkitty and the Embernic lately that it kind of stumps me when a device comes out with no one specific claiming ownership. Before I officially start this review, I wanted to thank a friend and watcher of the channel, Chuck, for letting me borrow his R36S for a few days.
All right, Chuck,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Even though this console is a very low $40 off of AliExpress, my inventory is getting a bit unmanageable. So I appreciate not having the option to keep one for once. After a lot of digging, the best way I can describe the R36S is to talk a little bit about hardware clones. So here we go. I guess the best definition of a gaming hardware clone is an extremely close copy of an original system, or greatly inspired by it. Although most clones are created with the intention of profiting from the success of the original system, they can also be the product of sincere attempts to pay homage or improve upon the original. Clones are nothing new in the gaming industry, even going back as far as Pong systems. Companies that want to make money make copies. Like them or not, they're out there.
For great family fun, hitch your TV to a Telstar.
Which brings us to the R36S, from a company that would like to remain anonymous. As much digging as I did, all I could find was the fact that this particular company, whoever they are, is also responsible for another clone called the R35S, which by all means was a mild success, copying the Powkitty RGB20S. As you can see, they look pretty close, and I don't have one yet, but I hear it's a hint better than the RGB20S, which makes this anonymous company even more interesting. So out comes the R36S as I have here, which looks almost exactly like the Embernic RG353V. Only the processor is not the RK3566, it's the RK3326, which you can still argue is a clone, but to what it's cloning is up for debate. To me, it's like the Embernic RG353V and the Powkitty RGB20S had a secret baby console. But I digress. So let's look at the unclaimed R36S, what it can do, and whether it's worth the money they're asking for. So the R36S comes in a fairly colorful box, and I love when a box shows a wow to help inspire you to get excited about a product. The box is also showing this comes in 3 colors, a white, a purple, and what my friend Chuck here purchased, which was black, which I have to say looks pretty sharp. Nothing else exciting on the box other than it says high resolution screen, eye protection on it. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but now I'm wishing all my handhelds promised eye protection also. Maybe I'm used to the royal treatment, but it would have been nice if the device was in one of those white plastic bags, instead of the console just waiting for you when you open the box. At least the phone protector's in there. This box includes the typical charging cable and instructions, and a generous screen protection kit. Nice. Now, since I have to give this back, I'm going to drive you absolutely bananas by not removing the screen protector in this entire review. Please forgive me, and yeah, this might drive me crazy also. The RG35S feels average. The weight and size of it reminds me of the RG35XX, although this of course is a bit bigger to afford the dual analog sticks, to which is probably the best thing this handheld has going for it, but I'll get into that later. I am immediately revolted by the D-pad as I tried to move it around. It just feels very tight, and rotating it feels very stiff. I was thinking at first this may just need to be broken in, but there are people out there modifying their D-pads to get this to work better. So I'm guessing it's not that great during gameplay. The buttons feel okay, they're marked just like I like them, but if you push one button and see another moving, that's never a good sign. Might still be playable, but I'm not happy with what I'm seeing so far here. In the center of the console, there's a function button, start and select buttons. These seem fine, and I'm curious what the function key does during gameplay, so more on that later. It also, of course, has the analog sticks that feel good. And I'm thinking that if the D-pad sucks as much as I think it does, then I'll be happy to have this as an option. Also on the front is a 3.5-inch screen with an IPS OCA laminated one that promises to have a 640 by 480 resolution. As far as the speaker, it's right in front of your face, and if you aren't happy with it, you can take comfort in the headphone jack located on the bottom. Also on the bottom are 2 fake speaker holes, or possibly holes made for future use, a USB charging port, and an OTG port for connecting external devices like wireless, which the R36S does not have. On the right side is the volume rocker, the standard for everything now, and an SD slot for the actual operating system. This did have a sticker over it, kind of a warning, but it fell off when I was fiddling with it. Sorry, Chuck. On the left side, simply enough, is a power and reset button and an SD slot for games. On the back, of course, has trigger buttons, to which I'm not a huge fan of. They're noisy and feel clunky, and they're not very comfortable by any means, but they're there at least. You certainly know when you're clicking them. Below that, of course, is the battery compartment, to which I'm happy to see is easy to pop open to replace the battery if you ever have the desire to do so. The current battery is 3,500 milliamp hours that says it lasts up to 8 hours. But honestly, that's only if you leave it on and do nothing with it. From what I've seen, I would estimate it's around 3 to 4 hours, depending on what you're playing. And that's about it for the hardware. When booting this up, I see it's running RCOS, which is a good custom firmware as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing too special here other than the ability to change the LED light color, which is a pretty new experience, and the ability to change between the included themes that you can add later at your leisure. This, of course, reads off the game SD and gives you a number of emulators you can play. Pretty simple. With the included games, I was able to verify the R36S can play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, Sega Genesis, Sega Dreamcast, Neo Geo, Capcom Play Systems 1 through 3, Arcade, PC Engine, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and PSP. For most of the games, I didn't see significant slowdown until I reached Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and PSP. Some games worked while others at times were sluggish. Nothing new here for this CPU. The controls, as expected, were a little stiff, but easy to overlook. It's not as comfortable as other systems, but enough for new casual players for sure. Normally I'd stick to the D-pad, but a lot of the time I migrated to the perfectly capable analog controls if I started having problems. You'll feel that way when playing fighting games for sure. The trigger buttons on the back were capable, but I still don't like them very much. I think the other systems have spoiled me and that they're just too loud in my opinion. I'm being super picky, but that's just my take on them. At least they work. What doesn't work, which is totally weird to me, is the function button. It looks like it would be a good way to drop out of games, but no. It's just there, teasing and taunting you. With ArcOS, the game SD was also loaded up with empty directories to be loaded up with ROMs, but I was only moderately successful. Sega Game Gear, when I added my own, came up fine, but Atari 2600 ROMs, no matter what I tried, just didn't seem to take. I'm sure there's a way, but it wasn't as cut and dry as I wanted it to be. So if you want to add your own systems this thing doesn't have included, I would feel a little cautious here. My guess, though, is that this is certainly a software thing and not a hardware one, so most likely an upgrade to ArcOS would be the best option here. You can do this by preparing a new SD card or getting a USB-C to wireless dongle, setting up wireless, and running the update option in the menus. All in all, this reminds me the R36S is a budget clone that just does what it can for a low price. It's not trying to be a contender for the best handheld, it's just another one of many that you can choose from. There's no built-in wireless, Bluetooth, Rumble Pack, and there certainly isn't an HDMI port, but it can certainly play games. Considering you can get it all loaded with 2 SD cards for $40 is an interesting thing of value here. I recommend it for someone just starting out, or perhaps a gift, or perhaps you just want one that you can keep banging around that you don't have to take super care of. They're all out there, all over the place. Just keep in mind this is a reseller's bread and butter device, so shop around for the best price. And that's all I have to say about the R36S. From an unknown maker that I'm positive will come up with another one to take advantage of the RK3566 chip. Thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye.